Today's event is very much focused on those that either are looking to start their career in compliance or those that are already working in compliance but maybe want to advance their career and feel that undertaking this professional qualification will help them in that regard. I'm going to give you the background in relation to IOB, and Kathy Jacob is going to give you a much deeper dive into how and what a career in compliance looks like and how the qualification and the membership of ACOI and IOB will help you in that regard. So the Institute of Bankers has been around for a very long time, since 1898. We have 33,600 members. And of those, we have 8,300 members studying with us. So the key thing, I suppose, when you come to IOB is that all of our education and our programs are aimed at those that are already working full-time in financial services. And the support that we give to our students is around that. So we understand that everybody has other commitments and we need to build a support structure to help you in achieving your objectives. We run a number of designation schemes, and you'll see that this program leads into a designation scheme which is run by the ACOI, Association of Compliance Officers, the Licentiate of Compliance, the LCOI, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So our purpose is to educate, enable and empower a community of professionals to achieve their full potential in delivering financial services to the highest standards with better outcomes for customers, clients and for society. And this purpose is reflected through the programme and through the programme outcomes, and is aligned very closely with what ACOI is doing in relation to their purpose as well. What's different about IOB? I suppose firstly, we're a recognised college of the University College of Dublin, UCD. So this programme is an accredited programme and sits on the National Framework of Qualifications. The programme we're going to look at today sits at level 7. But more importantly, both IOB and ACOI are membership organisations. We are the education partner to the Association of Compliance Officers. So why is compliance important and what is compliance about? Well, I suppose the financial services sector, which is the membership body IOB is for, comprises a very broad number of companies in the banking, in funds management, in wealth management, in insurance, the whole professional advisory sector that services them. And many and most of the activities that are carried out by the companies operating in the financial services sector are regulated. The main regulator being the Central Bank of Ireland, but there's many other regulators such as the Data Protection Commission and the CCPC. And I suppose with that regulation then requires the organisations to ensure that they are in compliance with the regulation. And that's in essence, I suppose, where compliance has come from. And when we talk about things like ethics and governance, when we talk about anti-money laundering, financial crime, data protection, some of you may have heard the things like the 3 lines of defence. All of these, I suppose, are incorporated and captured in compliance and the compliance function and the work that it does throughout the organisation. So today we're going to look at 2 programmes. The first, the Professional Certificate in Compliance, has 2 modules, and that plus the final 2 modules brings you to the Professional Diploma in Compliance. A little bit more about them. So the certificate is at level 7. The 2 modules, compliance and the regulatory structures and the conduct of business rules. And they sort of, the name really does reflect what the modules cover. And these modules have been developed with the industry practitioners of the ACOI. Again, back to what I said at the outset, I suppose, it's very much both for those who aspire to work in a professional capacity in a compliance function in financial services. And it's designed to enhance your skills, your judgment, and your ability to deal with practical issues. So while there is academic theory in the programme and there's a lot of, how the regulation works, but it's very much focused and structured so that you will be equipped and able to go out and to actually work in a role in compliance. And it'll bring to those that are already working in compliance maybe just the whole oversight of what they're doing and why they're doing it. And in today's economy, where I suppose we have, a lot of new ways of working, hybrid working, a lot more digitalization, we've all seen over the last year working from home. I suppose the ability to actually have a career in a profession that enables you to transfer across companies within the same sector, but across all companies within the financial services sector. Compliance is very unique in that regard, and it gives you that flexibility. To enroll on this program and register with the IOB, the students must first become members of the Association of Compliance Officers and then can register to the program. So it's offered 3 times a year. So this cohort will do exams in January, and there's another intake in May and another intake in September. And each of the 4 modules are offered 3 times a year. So that gives huge flexibility to the students enrolling on the program. The assessment on Module 1 and Module 2 is by way of MCQ. So you have an online MCQ that will be done from home or work or wherever you are. And there's the cost of the modules also listed there. On successful completion of the program, graduates can continue on to the second program, which incorporates the certificate as well, the Professional Diploma in Compliance. This also has 2 modules, 5 credits each, legal and regulatory aspects of compliance, and PDC4 is compliance management. And PDC4 is also known as a capstone module in that it brings together all of your learnings from PDC 1, 2, and 3, and it allows you, I suppose, apply them in a more practical way across the module in PDC4. All of the modules are supported, the delivery and are supported by textbooks, and all of the textbooks have been authored by industry practitioners who are working in the industry and have a lot of experience. The textbooks are going to be available as digital textbooks this year for the first time. They've always been available in PDF, but we've done a lot of work upgrading them so students will have a better experience. Similarly, the entry requirements and the assessment in these 2 modules is slightly different in that it is a written 2-hour exam by way of case study or essay type. And again, this will be an online exam and can be accessed remotely. So what do we provide to students? So once you register to the program, you get access to the study manual. Then you are also supported by IOB webinars that are developed around the material in the study manuals. And in addition to that, you have a program manager. So Mary O'Dwyer is on the call with us today. And Mary will be in contact with you regularly throughout the trimester, which is the academic term from October to December. And she will send you regular emails and just, keeping in touch with you, making sure that you're where you're meant to be at this point in the program and that your studies are going okay, and is available then to take any questions. And then we also run support study sessions. So we do an induction to the program, and then we do revisions at the end, just to help you along and to help you prepare for your exam. So there's a lot of detail in the next 2 slides. I'm not going to go through it in detail, and the slides will be available afterwards. But really what it is calling out what you can expect to be able to achieve having successfully completed the program. So it's understanding the role of compliance, the legal environment the financial services industry operates within, both within the domestic and the European legal environment, understanding the importance of ethics, understanding the authorization, supervision, and prudential requirements, and what each of those words mean in its own right. And at a broader level, I suppose, understanding where the compliance function fits within the organization and the relationship between compliance and other parts of the organization. So there's a lot of detail there, and that's split out between the various modules that are covered. What's really interesting about this program is that it leads to a professional designation. And a professional designation is a way in which you can keep your current learning, I suppose, live over your career. So when you complete the program, ACOI will invite you to take up their professional designation, the LCOI. And by undertaking to complete a number of hours, 15 hours when you get into the full program, a year of, I suppose, continuing professional development, and that can be by way of reading, it can be by way of attending events, it can be various different options. You are, I suppose, demonstrating not only to yourself, but to your employer and to industry that you are maintaining your professional standards in relation to the program you have undertaken. And this also has an added benefit in that The Central Bank of Ireland recognises the LCOI under MCC, which is minimum competency, in relation to certain aspects of the MCC requirements. So now, without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing for a minute and I'm going to introduce my the main event, shall I say, today. So Kathy Jacobs is the president of the Association of Compliance Officers, and very welcome again. Kathy's original background is as a chartered accountant, where she worked in the public and private sector in the UK before she came over here to Ireland. Kathy's been over in Ireland, I think it's fair to say, in since early 2000, I think, Kathy, if I'm right there, and was involved in the very original setup, I think there on the very night actually that the ACOI was formed and set up. She was one of the early adopters. One of the first things that ACOI did in its very early years was recognize the importance of accredited education, which is an independent benchmark because it's a university accredited. So when the Professional Certificate and Diplomas were set up and when the forerunners to them, Kathy, as an early adopter, actually undertook the program herself, and I know has gone on and undertaken many other courses of study since. So she can speak from the heart as somebody who has done the program. But she's also then worked in very many senior roles throughout compliance, throughout the industry, and has been very, very involved in ACOI over the years, chairing a number of committees in relation to data protection, financial crime prevention, and sitting on council, accumulating in her presidency for the last 2 years of the ACOI. So Kathy is going to share with us today, I suppose, her insights into a career in compliance and her insights into how the benefit of education assists that. So without further ado, Kathy, I shall hand over to you. And just to say, guys, any questions in relation to anything, we'll take them at the end, put them into the chat, or you're free to share them with us in any way. So over to you, Kathy.
Thank you, Evelyn, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm delighted to speak to you today on what is one of my favourite topics, and that is how great it is to be a compliance professional. I'd like to thank Evelyn and the team at IOB for the invitation to speak to you today. And you probably noticed I'm actually from Northern Ireland, and after graduating in accountancy at Queen's, I went to the UK, qualified as a chartered accountant, spent a number of years in forensic accounting. And then when we came back to Ireland in 2000, I decided to reinvent myself and had a look around. And I had seen from my own career in the UK that compliance was an up and coming discipline. And although I am a chartered accountant, I do have an interest in the law, so it seemed to me, a seamless or an obvious career choice for me. So that's what brought me into the profession in 2000. It was in its infancy at the time. Nobody knew if we were going to hang around or not. So that was in 2000. So I'm 20 years later, I'm still here and have enjoyed a varied and fulfilling career in compliance. And I'm speaking to you today in a number of roles. I am president of ACOI, so I lead the organisation, which is the largest global not-for-profit compliance education provider in the world. We have been a pioneer, as Evelyn said, of compliance education in Ireland. And we are the premier provider of that education in Ireland and in compliance, ethics and governance. Our aims are to educate, represent and promote. And we have a range of graduate and postgraduate diplomas, but our benchmark is the PDC, which you're here to hear more about today. I'm speaking to you also as a hiring manager, someone who goes looking for compliance professionals and recruiting. I had a compliance and had a risk and compliance actually in the past. And a compliance officer of 20 years experience in mostly in retail banking, but also in fintech and in insurance. But the way I want you to hear me today is not in any of those roles. I want you to think of me as your friend who happens to be a career advisor who has deep insights into compliance as a profession, and also who knows a lot about the PDC. So broadly, what are the benefits of PDC and indeed a compliance career? Well, a compliance career is rewarding in and of itself. and that's demonstrated by me spending 20 years in it. But it's also that the skills and knowledge that you gain are eminently transferable. You can't help but learn about your organization, about its products, about its services, about its customers, about its operations, about its strategy. So you learn across the board what goes on in an organization, and those skills are transferable. PDC itself is a career builder. It's not an end in itself. So hopefully this is the start of your compliance career journey. You will have to undertake CPD because as a compliance professional, you will have a commitment to excellence and a commitment to your own career. And that will be fulfilled partly by PDC, but also you will have access through ACOI and Institute of Banking to various other career building courses and education as you proceed and progress through your compliance career. So why choose a career in compliance for those of you who haven't already made the leap? It sits in the organisation within the 3 lines of defence in the second line. So we don't run the organisation. We call out the compliance risks and we advise, we train, we risk assess. And we usually own the regulatory relationship, that very important relationship in any regulated firm. So we're normally the interface between the first line who run the business and the regulator. So a career in compliance is an interesting, varied and very connected role. And it's very demanding. And that's hence the need for education. It's unique because you're across all parts of the business. You're involved in almost everything that goes on, from product development, sales processes and changes, channels, new channels, updating current ones, operations, customer services, you name it, and compliance will be involved in some way, shape or form. And you're also dealing at all levels in an organisation. So you're on the ground at 1 minute giving advice to another manager in the organisation. You're talking to a board member. The next, you might be presenting to a board member, and you might come out of that meeting, and then you're talking to someone on the front line who's got an irate customer in front of them. So you're moving up and down the organisation and dealing on a daily basis at different levels. You deal with many diverse issues. You're involved in all the initiatives. So you're building new products, building new sales channels, you're problem solving and troubleshooting whenever there's a problem. Certainly, the mark of a good compliance team is if they're the first port of call when something goes wrong. And certainly in my career, what has happened is I've been almost a director of traffic saying, that's great to know, but that's legal, or that's internal audit, or that's fraud. But it's good to be at the center of things and to know everything that's going on. You also have many stakeholders to manage too. So the end customers, who are probably the most important stakeholder. So your firm's customers, your colleagues, who sometimes if you're in an organization with 40, 50, 100, 400, any of them can ring you up at any time during the working day. And sometimes it feels like they all are ringing you up and are all making a demand on your time. So your colleagues are another very important stakeholder. Senior management and the board for reporting and oversight purposes, and they hopefully will be one of your champions and a really key stakeholder. And of course, regulators. Who are ultimately, the ultimate oversight in your firm, and that regulatory relationship is incredibly important to manage that well, because it makes a huge difference to your organisation and perhaps the regulatory oversight that's exercised. So, in short, your expertise is very sought after. A career in compliance gives you a very broad insight into the workings of financial services. And you get to see it from lots of different perspectives because of the reach that I've described that compliance has. There's many skills involved in being a compliance professional. So you're part lawyer, part project manager, part regulator, part teacher, psychologist, HR professional, equality advocate, salesperson, troubleshooter, to name but a few. And the compliance agenda is evolving all of the time. So just to go back to my own career, as I said, I began in 2000 in compliance. There was no PDC. There was no 3 lines of defense. Most compliance professions had no colleagues in it. You were a one-man band, no matter how big the organization was. So you were the only compliance person building a compliance program, and very much in the dark. It was very daunting to do this. You didn't know, there was no handbook, there was no manual, and there was no validation as to whether what you were doing was right. So it was a very lonely place to be. So when ACOI was established in 2002, and as Evelyn said, yes, I was there that night, and it was, there was huge enthusiasm for it. And just to give you an insight, there was no LinkedIn. It was literally a chain of emails. So we just passed on emails if we knew other compliance officers' email address. And in fact, the demand was so huge to attend that first meeting, we had to move location. So I knew at the time this would be a huge asset to me. So when in 2004, the PDC was announced, I jumped at the chance to undertake the course. So I was part of the first cohort that graduated in 2006, and I've maintained the qualification ever since. And in fact, I personally refreshed my own skills. I did the certificate and data, the CDPO qualification. Sorry, I can't remember off the top of my head what the CDPO is, the Certified Data Protection Officer, that's it. So I did that in 2017 alongside Evelyn, actually. That was very valuable in just rebooting from the start my own data protection, which I'd worked in for 17 years. But it was very valuable to reboot my knowledge from the start, especially with GDPR coming on the horizon at that stage. And what has PDC done for me since qualifying? There's been a large body of knowledge that has accumulated over that time. So we've had case law, we've had rules change, we've had 3rd, 4th, 5th, and potentially 6th money laundering directives. We've had GDPR, and just, we had the whole arrears consumer protection code. So we've had all of that being put in place, and that had to be, assimilated by us as compliance professionals. So all of the CPD seminars, the other qualifications, has helped me, refresh my knowledge. And there are other tools available to me as an LCOI. And it has provided me with a launch pad for a very, very varied compliance career. What I would say now as a head of compliance and, in building different teams, PDC is a prerequisite, and we do look for LCOIs. And I will tell recruitment agencies, I don't want to see anybody who doesn't have it. So if you're thinking of being a compliance officer, do the PDC. It's just a no-brainer, and no matter how much experience you think you have and on the job training, it has to be complemented by, formal transfer of knowledge and assimilation and testing of that knowledge through examination. So the skills and knowledge that you develop by undertaking the PDC and you put into practice in the day job are eminently transferable, and transferable in more ways than one. You can go into other areas within your own organization, and I have seen successful compliance officers, they're very much in demand in their own organization when you've got a good culture and the first line really want to strengthen their own compliance culture, and actually on the ground they will quite often poach a good compliance professional from their own team, and they'll strengthen operations or sales, and this is a win for compliance. If we can get our own people out there on the ground, we can have confidence that function is being strengthened from a compliance perspective. It's also transferable across industries. I've worked in 3 different financial services industries. I've worked in retail banking mostly, but I have also worked in fintech and in an insurance broker. So It's also a fundamental requirement of regulators, and you'll be aware of fitness and probity requirements, the senior executive accountability regime, which is coming up, and it being able to demonstrate that you have that knowledge is critical for regulators for building that credibility with that key stakeholder. Holding the PDC is, as I said, a career builder or a career booster. It can lead to a career with inbuilt longevity in itself, but the skills are transferable and can open doors to other opportunities in financial services. And just to sum up, regulation is not going away. It's only increasing. It's changing. 10 years ago, nobody could have foreseen things like sustainability, diversity and inclusion. These are all new fronts that are opening for compliance. So, it's not going away. It's only growing. You can specialize if you want to do that. You can if you want to be a financial crime specialist, a data protection specialist, a conduct of business specialist, you can do that. You can go on to further education. ACOI, we do provide specialist courses. We've got one on financial crime prevention. We've got one on data protection. We've a new one in fintech, which has been really well received. You can which is, to me, it's a kind of a key decision point for me if actually this something can lead on to further education. So that opportunity is there. Something that we've always been very good at, but unfortunately because of the pandemic we've had to suspend it, is networking. And I wouldn't underestimate that as a skill. It is a key skill for a compliance professional. You do need to be able to not be shy about forging those relationships with your colleagues and your opposite numbers in other organizations and on other regulated firms, and also be yourself, be open to being approached by others as you gather in your own expertise. So ACOI provides those opportunities, and hopefully I'm really looking forward to getting that up and running next year and getting some networking events for our members. You also have access to ACOI resources. We have working groups, specialist working groups. We have the quarterly magazine, ICQ. We have our lunchtime seminars to help you achieve your CPD. We have podcasts at the moment. I'm hosting a podcast series, so hopefully that's seen as a resource for our members. So after all of that, I invite you to take up the challenge and to benefit from the opportunities that the PDC and a compliance career undoubtedly has to offer. So back to Evelyn.
I know somebody asked if there was any funding assistance for PDC 1. So I replied, but I'll reply to everybody verbally. So ACOI do offer an annual scholarship to the PDC, and that will be coming up soon, I'd say. Yeah. So once that is up, it'll be up on the ACOI and the IOB website. Yeah. And that offers, but for the coming cohort coming in, I don't believe there's any. Many employers are very receptive to this program, and this program has been around for a long time, and employers tend to know it and know the IOB and ACOI. So if you are interested in doing it, it could be useful to talk to your employer as well. What I'd love to do is to thank Kathy very much, both for her time and for her insights. I hope you found them very useful. I always do. Every time I listen, I always hear something else, so it's always really interesting. We have details of the program on the website itself. And after this event, we will share the slides. The recording will be up on the websites. We will share the slides with you, and there was also a link to the program brochure. And all of that will give you the information that you need. At the end of the slide presentation, the program manager, Mary O'Dwyer's contact details are there, and so are mine. So thank you very much for joining us today. The closing date for the applications is coming up soon. So if you are interested, please send us in even if you don't have all the information you need ready, send us in the information that you're interested, and we'll keep in touch with you and make sure that we get you any other information that you're looking for. So thanks very much, everybody, and talk to you all soon. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you. Thank you.